started to use it in the lockdown last time round, and now going to start using it again because they've got some more improvements out there. But today I am going to talk about Clubhouse. So if you haven't heard of Clubhouse, Clubhouse is this relatively new app that is kind of taking social media by storm per se at the moment. And it only works if you've got an iPhone, so that's frustrating a lot of people because Android certainly, obviously, is the dominant device out there at the moment. But the simplest way to describe Clubhouse is it's a bit like WhatsApp, if you will, but with voice. So if you're already using voice notes on WhatsApp or you send voice notes on LinkedIn. Then this is something that you may want to consider. It's invite only at the moment, and what I've been playing around with it for a while now, and it's interesting. I was a little bit suspicious of these things when they first come out. However, I've already been involved in some rooms, and it's a weird experience because fundamentally, once you're in there, you are able to, anybody can create a room and anybody can join a room and anybody can be involved in the conversation. You have to ask permission from the person who has set the room up to ask to talk, and then you literally just talk to your phone and start having a conversation with people. So the other day, for those of you that are kind of in the social media world, I was in the same room as Gary V. Now, the queue to ask him a question was huge, but fundamentally, if I had stayed on long enough and the chat was going on for long enough, I could have actually asked Gary a question, whatever it might be, and then he's going to take the time to answer it. So it's a fascinating networking, new way of networking. At the moment, the conversation is sort of very much driven. It's kind of tech. It's quite tech heavy in terms of the conversations. But I'm starting to see more and more B2B conversations come into the platform, just around things like social selling, digital selling. Big debate yesterday around the use of pods on LinkedIn, which was as an interesting one. But this whole concept of voice is nothing new, and it's around voice in general. I believe is going to continue to become more and more prevalent within this sphere of creating social and human connections, because Twitter has actually acquired a business. Well, they introduced, was it November of last year? This was published that Twitter are also. I know they're getting rid of, or they're going to be downgrading Periscope, but Twitter are also introducing a similar kind of function to create these chat rooms. And if you're already on Discord, for example, so Discord servers already have this, where you can just go in and have live chats, live audio and video conversations. What I find that is interesting around the likes of Clubhouse, and I'll be interested to see what Twitter brings out, is that it feels far more social. It's far more, how can I say, relaxed, if you will. It's less formal than, dare I say, it's doing a Zoom breakout where it's scheduled. It's less formal than being in that Team Zoom, WebEx environment, because you are able to literally just drop in and drop out of the conversation when you please. So it is very much, for those of us that remember the office environment, it very much feels like that moment when you go to the cafeteria or the water cooler, if you will, to get whatever, and you just see a colleague and you just start chatting about whatever that chatting might well be. And certainly in the corporate world, this, talking to a lot of clients and people over, the last kind of 6 to 9 months around all of this, and leaders of organizations, this has been one of their biggest concerns is how do I maintain that culture? How do I kind of maintain the club, if you will, in a positive sense and an inclusive sense of the organization, within this digital environment where you can't create those kind of collision moments, if you will, those random acts of conversation and people bumping into each other to then share knowledge and share insight. So I believe that, you know, what Clubhouse has done and has created, and as I said, a simple way to think about it, if you use WhatsApp, and that's kind of, it can either be instantaneous, you dip in and out of the group conversations and the group chats that you're in. Think of this as exactly the same as that, but you are just in voice. You're literally just talking. You can see the icons of the individuals when you set your profiles up in Clubhouse. So you have a profile, and you pull through from Twitter or Instagram, typically, in terms of what that looks like. So you can start to, you know, present yourself however which way you will. So from a business to business perspective, from a networking perspective, the rules of personal branding still apply, even though fundamentally it is voice. But for me, what is so interesting about voice, it starts to create that connection. Certainly when you pick up the phone and you hear someone talk, you can start to build that. And I know there is this, you know, the thing around trust and becoming a trusted advisor, but when you actually hear someone's voice and talking, you start to form a different opinion, and you start to form, okay, this is the person I see. Okay, this is the person that I hear here talking. And the fact that Twitter is now going down this route, and of course, Twitter, you're able to create voice notes and send voice notes on Twitter. Facebook, of course, you can create your meeting rooms and so on. But people have their opinions on Facebook, and again, it's video or not video. What I kind of like about this, it's just very straightforward and very simple to use once you've been invited in. Now, of course, at the moment, there's this big kind of, oh, everybody's in Clubhouse, it's something new, it's something different. It will be interesting to see how this then plays out and how the app develops, and how then the likes of, dare I say it, the Zooms of the world, the Microsofts of the world, Slack, now that, you know, Salesforce has acquired Slack, start to bring in this kind of voice community into their collaboration platforms, but voice in a way that is enables you to just dip in and out of that conversation versus being the more formal. And if you look at the broader aspect of voice and audio and moving into the worlds of kind of beyond the likes of Clubhouse, because Clubhouse, in the simple way, it's almost like a live podcast. It's almost like live podcast with lots of people curating and bringing in their conversation. We've seen, you know, the acquisitions that Spotify have been making, some of the celebs, if you will, that they have contracted to create content for them on their platform, as people start to listen more, because, you know, we are no doubt having video fatigue. We are no doubt getting bored of this screen environment. But the beauty of audio, especially if it's driven via mobile, of course most things are app driven, is that you can be anywhere to listen to it. So for example, even if I didn't necessarily want to participate in a Clubhouse conversation, I could go out for a 30-minute walk, run, just sit down and, you know, have some chill out and just listen to the conversation that is happening, and then start to learn new things. But what it's also enabled me to do is network with different and new people in a different way. Now, typically the people that are on there are people that at the moment I wouldn't necessarily sell to. They're in the same sphere as me. They're in the same industry or areas of expertise as me around advising organizations around social. DLA Ignite, you know, we've got our first Clubhouse chat coming up on Friday. We're socializing that at the moment around, you know, how we believe that this might build into the wider social selling influencer environment, if you will. But if we then consider what Clubhouse is doing, and then it'll be interesting to see what Twitter is doing around the world of voice, but then take this concept of voice a step back to in the B2B world. So sales and marketing, but let's talk about sales for the moment. Tools such as Gong, Ring DNA, Outreach, to name but a few, SalesLoft, etc., etc. They are now enabling organizations to record client conversations. So much like when you phone up your bank or whomever, this call is being recorded for training and monitoring purposes. Voice for me is still a hugely untapped area of learning, development, trends, themes, and data analysis. So as this concept of being in this kind of networked environment, but through voice and voice alone, becomes more prevalent, if you will, then for me, I believe that the organizations that are able to get this and understand this will start to really get a view around what it is that people are able to learn from in terms of those nuances, the subtleties. Because the beauty of voice is you can then hear the tone, you can hear the tonality, you can hear the inflections, and it's much like the challenge with the written word is it's very difficult to convey unless you're a brilliant copywriter. It's very difficult to convey tone and tonality in the written word, and people can misinterpret it. Of course, within voice, people can misinterpret it. And back to Clubhouse, fundamentally, they have some very strict rules around what it is that people can do and don't do, and you can report things in terms of if you think that they are inappropriate or whatever it might be. But for me, it's interesting to see, and I'm surprised actually that Slack didn't really get onto this concept of voice sooner, because looking back at it, it's such a simple concept. And so I'm not a technical person, but would imagine for an organization such as Slack that building kind of the voice communication on that kind of off-the-cuff chat would be straightforward. Yes, I know you can call through Slack and so on and create group calls, but it doesn't have that kind of instantaneous feel to it, which the likes of Clubhouse does, where you can just move in and out of that conversation at your own behest. But it'll be interesting then to see the likes of, as I said, these collaboration tools, that water cooler moment, which businesses are looking to engage with and try and bring that back in to enable employees just to dip in and out of the broader conversation. Of course, all of this is going to require some shift in behavior for some people, and it's not going to be for everybody. And of course, some of the chat has already been in some of the groups that I'm in, is that it's another channel. It's another place that I have to be. It's another place that I need to be part of. My take on it at the moment is that it is very much going to be, for the tech savvy, for the generation where this is what they do. Am I expecting to make any business from it? No, not at the moment. But then the reason I want to be on it is I want to try it. And much like when LinkedIn launched Stories, there was some interesting debate around Stories being a waste of time, and I've generated a business opportunity through Stories because I just tried it and wanted to get a sense and a feel of what it's about. But also, so now that I'm able to talk about it, when people ask me, what's this Clubhouse thing? Is it relevant for me? Not relevant for me? I think based on, I always talk about the fish where the fish are, based on the fish that I can see at the moment in Clubhouse, and I think they've got over 1 million users now. So of course I'm not seeing anyone, a small proportion of it. I don't believe that to be the case, but I've only been on it for a couple of days and need to start and build up my following. I think the Twitter one is going to be interesting because on Twitter I have a much larger following and presence, therefore might be able to drive better engagement more quickly on that. But as I said, as I said earlier, the next generation of employee coming through, and dare I said, this isn't necessarily an age thing. And the reason I talk to that is that I'm on Discord. I'm on a Discord server on the Sales Borgs, set up by Justin Michael, and we talk all things sales, selling, cold outreach, cold email, which I don't necessarily isn't part of what I do, but I need to understand how that works in terms of the overall construct. But Discord has this exact same functionality, albeit you have to be in the certain the servers in order to be able to get the best out of it. It'll be interesting to see how this develops, but of course Discord is also focused very much on the gaming industry, and the gaming industry has all age demographics across it. So there will be employees in your organizations of a majority of age profiles, some who will be in the gaming world, where this concept of getting on a group chat, having just group conversations, off the cuff type of water cooler moments will be completely and utterly normal for them. And I believe that if businesses, it'll be interesting to see what Clubhouse does. It'll be interesting to see. I'm trying to figure out how they may well monetize this. Because at the moment it's free to join. As I said, it's invite only, so you have to be invited by somebody within who's already in there. But at the end of the day, it's all around creating different channels and different points of communication for people to network. And this is the whole point around social. And when working with organizations and I'm primarily professional services in terms of what I do. We at DLA Ignite, we do everything across all sectors. But when you say to individuals, "Oh, I don't use social media," and then you bring up some of Simon Kemp's research. Simon's a brilliant gentleman to be following in terms of what he releases and all the different kind of social platforms. And they go, "Well, I use YouTube, I use WhatsApp, I use whatever it might be." I hadn't necessarily considered those as social media. Actually, this is probably going to become more normal than necessarily we realize. Yes, in the corporate space, there still is this challenge around, even the basics of getting people to use Teams or the equivalent in terms of, let's take this off email and let's bring this into a Teams chat and a Teams environment so it's more off the cuff, etc., etc. This will translate, I absolutely believe, into the world of voice in terms of rather than necessarily having to schedule something, because of course that's the challenge in a Teams environment or a Zoom environment, rather than kind of necessarily one click, let's just go straight into a call. Yes, you can make it a call, but to get everybody into that kind of water cooler moment, someone has to schedule something and dip in. That's where Clubhouse has absolutely nailed this, is that it's instant. And you can kind of come and go and without actually necessarily people knowing that you're coming and going until you put your hand up or want to put your or add your piece to the sort of go on stage as they say. So from my perspective, go into any social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, lots of conversation happening around Clubhouse. TechCrunch has got some articles on this. I said Twitter is also moving into this space of creating these voice collaboration zones, which I can only just, in simple terms, as I said, it feels very much like a WhatsApp group, but it's purely for voice, that you can then start to collaborate and then network. And I said I've networked and I've connected with people that I believe in my normal environment on LinkedIn, Twitter, Insta, and so on, I would never necessarily have come across these individuals and these subject matter experts in their own right, because of the way that all these algorithms behave. Yes, I believe in Clubhouse. They start to personalize your feed for you. They start to personalize the people that you may want to connect with. But of course, rather than connect, you follow. But you can go and seek these people out and seek the conversations based on keyword search and so on. So from my perspective, as I said, it's iPhone only at the moment, which I know is causing some frustration for people that aren't on iPhone to come in. I don't know for a fact, but I assume they're looking at an Android fix as well. Go and seek out your network. Try and find out if anybody's in Clubhouse. Once you're in, I think you get 5 invites, and the more that you get involved, you get some more invites. It's invite via text at the moment, so they have to have your cell number, your phone number in their contacts address book, and then they can send you a text message, and then you are able to join. You set up your username as you do on any social media platform, and then you can import your profile from Twitter or Instagram. If you haven't got any of those, then you just update your profile as you would normally on any other platform by importing your the photo you want to choose. You create your bio, and then you are automatically following the person that invited you in, and then you can find conversations. And my advice is do what I did initially, is just go and join a room and just listen. And people can see that you're in the room, but they don't necessarily expect you to do anything. You can raise your hand to then ask a question, or you can hit the plus button, and that's you in terms of your inviting you to go onto the virtual stage, as it were, to then ask a question. Typically, to take the Gary V scenario, there are a number of moderators, so you can then ask a question to the moderator or respond to any conversation that has happened, and just get a sense, a feel of it. As I said, at the moment, it doesn't cost anything to join. You may get in there, you may find some nuggets of information, you may not. For those of you that are on Twitter, look out for what Twitter is doing. As I said, I found this piece from The Verge. This was published back in November of 2020, and they describe it. Twitter plans to take on Clubhouse with the invite-only social platform where users congregate voice referendum, blah, blah, blah. In theory, these spaces, So here's an image. So it's Twitter called Spaces, and looking at it, it basically looks like exactly the same as Clubhouse. But I said, for me, it'll be interesting because, from my perspective, I have a much larger following on Twitter, so maybe that will drive better and larger engagement. So that's just my perspective on Clubhouse. Go and check it out. Go and play around with it. I believe that voice is going to play a much larger part in 2021 as we move forward and continue to work, live, and operate in this virtual environment. I'm going to make much more of an effort to do much more live streams to get a sense and a feel of it. But for now, thanks to the few of you that I can see have tuned in to watch this, I appreciate it. Do follow me on Twitter if you're not already, or you can come and seek me out on LinkedIn. Maybe mention that you saw this live stream on either Twitter or LinkedIn, and give some ideas of what I could do next week. But until then, have a good day wherever you are. If you're in full lockdown like I am in the UK, good luck with homeschooling. It's been fun for those parents. It's been a challenge at the moment. We're only day 2 of parents, but otherwise, I look forward to seeing you all again soon.